What's up, nerds? It's Shane, and today I'm with Steven. Say what up, dude.
What's up, dude?
We're going to be going over your $300 upgrade for Virtue and Valor. We already saw your 100. That was a very fun and slash mean deck. But today, we're going to be expanding upon that. We're going to take your additions and we're going to throw some more money at it, and we're going to make it even better. So before we jump into all your additions, do you want to talk about the Face Commander and maybe just a little bit of what the deck wants to do?
Yeah, so fun deck, Shane. Not gonna lie, like you were saying in the intro there. So the Phase Commander, I went and stuck with Ellivere of the Wild Court, 2 a green and a white for a legendary creature human knight. That's a 4/4. And then whenever it ETBs or attacks, you create a virtuous role token attached to another target creature you control. And then whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. If you don't know what a virtuous role is, let's go ahead and do a little refresher. This is just a beautiful enchantment aura that goes onto your creature. It gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So this deck is kind of basically just trying to like go wide a little bit, maybe throw some enchantment auras onto some stuff, and just really hurt people.
I heard that, dude. Well, like we said, this is going to be a sequel of the 100. So before we jump into your $300 additions, we're going to probably throw up on screen right here all the cards that you brought over from that beautiful $100 list. I'm guessing you loved all of them, so you're going to be bringing them all over.
Yep, Shane, you're definitely right. I am bringing them all over. I try really hard to not sub out anything from the $100 list. I just feel like if there's a reason for them to be added to a deck upgrade, they should just stay there.
Yeah, I heard that, man. We are in your bigger budget, like I was saying. Let's just jump into some of your additions from the $300 upgrade.
Yeah, let's start off with a fun one. Obviously, this is not an enchantment or an aura, but it is a fun card. This is Esper Sentinel, 1 white for an artifact creature human soldier. It's a 1/1. And then whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, you draw a card. Unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. So Shane, I'm going to paint a picture for you. Imagine putting an aura on this and making it big, and then making them have to pay 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5.
I mean, no one will pay that, so you'll just be drawing cards.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't think anyone really pays Esper that often anyways, so it's kind of a fun include.
Yeah, I'll pay one, but you make it any bigger and I'm not going to be paying it.
Yeah, this is a really fun include just because there's a ton of card draw in this deck, and just to add another piece, just to maybe get to those combos, hint, hint, question mark. But next up, we do have Sarah Senate. This is another creature that is 1 white. It's a 1/1. It has lifelink, and then as long as you have 30 or more life, Sarah Senate gets +5/+5 and has flying.
Best one drop in the deck.
Best 1-drop in pretty much any white deck. And then it has lifelink. You're throwing auras on stuff, might as well throw it on something with lifelink. And then if it already gets 6 power because of the +5/+5, let's add on to it. And since this deck really wants to swing and swing hard, I threw in Toski, Bearer of Secrets. 3 and a green for a legendary creature Squirrel. It's a 1/1, but don't let that fool you. This card is pretty powerful. It can't be countered. It's indestructible, but it has to attack each combat if able. But it's indestructible. Doesn't matter. But the best part is, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
That's awesome. You're going to be swinging, like you said, with a lot of cards. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards. This is a pretty good creature package right here, dude.
Yep, it's the name of the game, man. Draw your cards, play your deck, and just hurt people.
Are there any other creature additions?
There are no more creature additions, but I do want to take a quick second before we get to the enchantment package of the deck to talk about one specific enchantment and one creature. So the enchantment I added for the 300, and then the creature already comes into the deck. So this creature is Siona, Captain of the Pyles. This is 1, a green and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature human soldier. A ton of text here. So we'll just kind of go through it kind of fast. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you're going to look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal an aura card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So really fun card, helping us find an aura we may need. And then the second piece of text here says, whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a creature you control, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Now the fun part is with the enchantment I added to the deck. So I added Shielded by Faith. This is 1 and 2 white for an enchantment aura. It says enchant creature. Enchanted creature has indestructible. And then whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may attach Shielded by Faith to that creature. Shane, you see what I'm doing here?
I think you're making creatures and then attaching Shielded by Faith.
Yep. So Siona comes down. Let's just go ahead and attach this aura to her. It's going to make a 1/1. Shielded by Faith is going to trigger. We're going to put it on the 1/1. Siona's going to trigger again, make another 1/1. And this is going to continuously go on until we decide we do not want to resolve that trigger anymore.
Well, that's a good way to make a bunch of 1/1s.
Yep. Pretty much make enough 1/1s to just swing out the next turn. There are some fun cards we did add into the enchantment package to maybe make this a little bit more fun.
Well, don't keep me in suspense. What are some enchantments we're adding?
So the first enchantment I want to talk about with this beautiful army that we're bringing onto the field is Concordant Crossroads. This is 1 green for a world enchantment. So this is for all players, but all creatures have haste. So this is a little hastily of us to play this. Get it? Hastily.
I got it.
All right, he got it. So this is a fun card. I will not lie. If we have this army, nobody stops us. Siona's just going off. Shielded by Faith's going. We're just going to swing in with this 1/1 soldier army and just win the game.
Yeah, and if you don't have that 1/1 army, all your creatures having haste is still pretty good. Hey, remember, you're giving that to everybody, so play this cautiously.
Yeah, play it cautiously. What I will say, though, is it is a fun card to have, especially since our commander cares about enchanted creatures swinging in for that damage. Also, there's tons of ways to draw cards in this deck with swinging in for damage. So it's a good addition. Next up, we have Aura Shards. This is 1, a green and a white for an enchantment. And then whenever a creature comes into play under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. I get to have the cool stuff. You don't.
Yeah, that's a really mean enchantment, man. So every time you get to play something, you're going to be basically 2-for-1ing everyone? That's dumb.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the whole point.
That's dumb. But I like it in your decks.
Thank you. Next up, we have a auto include in pretty much any kind of enchantment deck. This is Hallowed Haunting for 2 and 2 white. As long as you control 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. And then whenever you cast an enchantment, create a white Spirit Cleric creature token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to each of the number of spirits you control. So we're not Spirit Tribal, Shane, but that one spirit could get pretty big.
You're going to be pseudo-spirit tribal, right? Like, you're going to be making spirits whenever you play an enchantment.
Yep, and there are a lot in this deck.
All right, that's a very mean included as well.
Next 2 cards I want to talk about are basically to help us with some mana. So obviously, we got a $300 budget, right? So I went ahead and threw land tax in here. So land tax, 1 white, it's an enchantment. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Classic.
Yep, never miss a land drop.
Best thing about this, though, Shane, if I'm honest with you, is this kind of helps filter through our deck. So we're getting these land drops. We can just go ahead and put these lands into our graveyard, worst case, and then just keep having fun. Just draw the big boys.
I love when you're honest with me.
I love being honest with you. Also, to help with our mana base, we have Smothering Tithe because it's a great card. This is 3 and a white for an enchantment. It says whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a treasure token.
Straightforward. I feel like you're playing white. We say this a lot, but any players that are playing in this color combo and you got this in your collection somewhere, just put it in the deck.
Yeah, this is a really good card. I just feel like with these 2 precons, there's a lot of card draw, especially, after seeing what David's been doing with that Fade Dominion deck. So,
oh yeah,
he can draw cards. I just want him to pay the 2. Shane, we've been talking a lot about card draw. What I did throw into this deck is the always glorious Sylvan Library. This is 1 and a green. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand, draw on this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put the card on the top of your library.
I'm going to pay the 4 life, I think, dude.
I mean, technically, you could pay 8 and keep 3.
That's true, too.
What's the phrase? Pay 8, feel great?
Yeah, always feeling great. It's a good card, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hunter actually kind of talked to me about this a little bit. I was very hesitant about throwing this into the deck. But in a way, for 2 mana, this is a Scry 2 every turn.
Yeah, that's true, too. At its floor, it's got a good floor. It's got a great ceiling. Good include.
Yep, thank you. But lastly, I threw a fun one in, Shane, because after coming out of this last set with the Zuladoc and the Eldrazi, I kind of wanted to bring a little bit of that into the deck. So I threw a fun little aura in. So Eldrazi Conscription. This is 8 glorious mana. for a tribal enchantment, Eldrazi Aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +10/+10 and has trample and Annihilator too.
This card's fantastic as a finisher, man. I put it in my enchantment deck as well. Like, it's great. If you need a creature to push in for some damage, give it 10/10 and Annihilator too, dude. Like, yeah, I'm a big fan of this card for sure.
Yeah, plus, I mean, let's just say the creature that we enchant also has a virtuous roll. That's, basically 11 damage because you're adding it onto that, plus the creature's toughness. And let's say that we don't have a bunch of other enchantments on the field,
Yeah, that's a great finisher. All right, we saw creatures, we saw enchantments. What other spells are we looking at?
So, Shane, I did throw in a instant and a sorcery. First one I'm going to talk about is the instant. Let's say somebody wants to wipe the board, and I don't want my side of the board to get hurt. Or let's just say somebody's trying to swing in for some lethal. Teferi's Protection is always a good card. So for 2 and a white, this says until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile Teferi's Protection.
Yeah, this is a great last resort card. I see it in many decks. I think Hunter loves this card, but yeah. As a last line of defense, great card.
Yeah, anytime I play against somebody and I see they have 1 white and maybe 2 mana of any kind open, I'm just like,
You're like, I know what you're doing here.
And the last spell I threw in, which was that sorcery, is Green Sun's Zenith. This is X and a green. Search your library for a green creature card with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle Green Sun's Zenith into its owner's library. Shane, do you like tutors?
I don't, but you do.
I love tutors, Shane. You know what I loved most about tutors?
Getting them back.
Getting that tutor back into my deck that I can draw again and re-tutor.
I figured it out.
You did figure it out, buddy. Shane, the main reason why I threw this in is because I had Enlightened Tutor added to my $100 list, and basically that searches for an artifact or enchantment card, so we can go ahead and get our piece of the combo, so it gets Shielded by Faith, and Siona is a green card, so Green Sun Zenith will go get Siona for us.
Makes sense. Plus you get it back in your library. Good card, good.
Good card, good.
So since we're in the 300, did you do anything to your land base?
Yeah, I didn't want to just pump a shit ton of money into the land base. I did add Windswept Heath, which is tap it, pay 1 life, sacrifice it, go search your library for a forest or a plains card, then shuffle your library. And then I also added Temple Garden. This is a forest or a plains. You can shock it in for 2 life. So basically use Windswept Heath, go get this, pay 3 life. Feel great.
Feel great. Yeah, if you have any fetches and or shocks in your collection, just throw them into Precon. It definitely ups the strength of your Precon for sure.
It definitely does boost up the strength. I mean, you are basically kind of filtering through your deck. So, I mean, Windswept Heath will help you get basically 2 cards out. So, Windswept, Temple, you're good to go.
Love it. And is that all of your additions for your 300?
Those are all of my additions, buddy.
Right on. Well, now we got into the part where you added a bunch of cool cards, but we got to make some more room. So we're going to go over your cuts for the 300. But before we get into those, again, we will flash up on screen. Since this is a sequel to the 100, all the cuts from the 100 will be transferring over as well. So all these cards were cut in your 100, Steven. Since you brought over the additions, you're still sticking with these cuts. If you want to see all of his reasoning into why he did this, check the description below. You'll see a link for the $100 video. But we got to make room for these better cards, Steven. What are we cutting?
Yeah, this one was tough, man. So I didn't want to take the route of throwing in 4 expensive cards and calling it a day, right? So I wanted to throw in some good value for a $300 upgrade, make it really nice for the Precon. But with that being said, the $100 list was super easy for the cuts. The 300 was super difficult because this deck actually did have a lot of good cards in it. But unfortunately, we did have to make cuts, like you said. So first one on the list is Aura Gnarlid. This is 2 and a green for a creature beast 2/2. Creatures with power less than it can't block it. Pretty good. And then also it gets +1/+1 for each aura on the battlefield. Main reason for cutting this, it's a 2/2 for 3 mana. Yes, it has some pretty good static effects on it. You could basically pump this up, but I feel with the other creatures we added, I kind of just want to pump those up instead. Next up on the chopping block chain, we have Eidolon of Countless Battles. This is 1 and 2 white for an enchantment creature Spirit. It's a 0/0, but it has Bestow. So it's 2 and a white for the bestow cost. If you don't know what that does, it's if you cast this card for its bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. It becomes a creature again if it's not attached to a creature. So this is always a fun mechanic. So essentially, if your creature ever dies, this basically just swaps out for it. But the second part of the text here, Shane says, idle on a countless battles, an enchanted creature each get +1/+1 for each creature you control, and +1/+1 for each aura you control. So this will always have some fun +1/+1 effects. I just, like I said, man, we added some other stuff, so you just have to make cuts, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got heavy hitters. You got to cut out some fat.
Speaking of fat/heavy hitter, we have Liberated Livestock. This is 5 and a white. A lot of mana there. It's a creature, cat, bird, ox. Lots of animals types, things. It's a 4/6, and then when it dies, you create a 1/1 white cat creature token with lifelink, a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying, and a 2/4 white ox creature token. For each of those tokens, you may put an aura card from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield attached to it. Okay. This card's pretty good when you read it, you know what I mean? I just 6 mana, and then it dies, and then you make the things, and then you just bring back one aura, put it on. There's a couple other effects like that in the deck, so I was just like, I kind of wanted to thin the deck a little bit mana-wise, so I just got rid of this.
Yeah, and if, EDH is a very exile-heavy removal, you know that. This doesn't do anything.
I do know that by a 2-hour Commander game we played one time.
So yeah, they just target this with any kind of exile effect, and it's just gone. So, I understand this cut.
Next up, we have Loam Crafter Fawn. This is 2 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard 1 or more land cards. When you do, return up to that many target non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, every time I read through this card, I just thought it was a little bit too meh for the deck, and obviously we're drawing so many cards anyways, so just got rid of it. Next up is Tanglespan Lookout. This is 2 and a green. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. I don't really care. I'll be honest with you. This was 3 mana for a 2/3. Yes, when you're playing these auras, you're drawing cards. There is so much card draw in this deck that I could get rid of one and it not matter. I'll be dead honest with you.
I feel that, dude. It's, like you said, tons of card draw in this deck already.
And the last 2 creatures we have Timber Paladin and Tithe Taker. Timber Paladin is 1 and a green with a ton of text on it. First thing it does is as long as Timber Paladin is enchanted by exactly 1 aura, it has base power, toughness 3/3. If it's enchanted by 2 auras, exactly 2 auras, its base power and toughness are 5/5, and it gets vigilance. And then its third ability there is if it's enchanted by 3 or more, it has base power and toughness 10/10, vigilance, and trample. I mean, it's cool. That's all right, I guess.
It's what David would call a big dumb beater.
It is a big dumb beater, and it is a big dumb beater that I did not need in the deck. I have an Eldrazi conscription. That could be my big dumb beater. And like I said, Tithe Taker is the last one, so it is 1 and a white. During your turn, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to activate, unless they're mana abilities. This also has Afterlife 1. When this dies, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with line. So I get it. For 2 mana, you get kind of like 2 creatures, really. It taxes your opponents. I didn't really lean too much into the taxing effects here, so I didn't really care.
All right, those cuts make sense, man. Are we cutting anything in the instant or sorcery department?
I am, and I guess I might get a little hate. I'm going to get rid of Generous Gift. This is 2 and a white for an instant. This is destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. I'll be honest, normally really love this in any deck. I don't know. We have Swords to Plowshare that comes stock in the deck. We have a couple board wipes. I mean, is a spot removal spell really good? Yes. I just didn't want to give my opponent a 3/3. It came down to, do I really care? I just feel like with the amount of creatures we're trying to put down and how big they would be, I didn't really think it mattered.
Yeah, that's the beauty. This is your rendition of the build. Get it out of there.
Get her out of there.
We also added a bunch of enchantments. Are you making any adjustments to your enchantment?
I did. I did take out 5 enchantments. They were all auras. So first one is Ethereal Armor. This is 1 white for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control and has first strike. Pretty cool. There's tons of effects that do the same thing. I mean, granted, it doesn't give it first strike, but I mean, for 1 mana, this is a really good card. Everything else we added kind of like dwarfed it, so I didn't really care. Shane, next up on the cutting block, we have Indomitable Might. This is 3 in a green for Enchantment Aura with Flash. Enchant creature gets +3/+3, and then it can basically assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. This is a really good card. If you're kind of wanting to swing in for some sneaky damage, definitely throw this back in. But to be quite honest with you, the deck ran really smooth without it when I did playtesting, so I didn't really find a need for it. Kind of right behind it is Giant Inheritance. This is 4 and a green, so a little bit more costly. This says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +5/+5 and has, whenever this creature attacks, create a monster roll token attached to up to 1 target attacking creature. If you don't know what a monster roll does, it says enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. And then whenever this is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. Shane, I already have Rancor in the deck, and that's 1 green. I don't have to pay 5. Granted, this does give +5/+5, but with all the effects we already have in the deck pumping our creatures, I just figured Rancor was more than enough.
Yeah, it's a bit pricey.
Spectral Steel is out of the deck as well. This is 1 and a white. This is enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and then you can pay 1 and a white, exile this from your graveyard, return another target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. This is kind of an interesting one because it's kind of cheap. It's nice that it gives your creature +2/+2, and I do like the fact that you can exile it from your graveyard, so it's kind of like a nice little piece to bring something back to your hand. But there are some other effects in the deck that kind of do it better than this and bring back a lot more than just the 1. So I just took this right out. And then lastly, I got rid of Verdant Embrace. This is 3 and 2 green for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 and has, at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. So, can make some 1/1s, I guess.
You could.
I could.
But
I'm
now
not.
you can't. Yeah.
Yep. Took it out of the deck. It's gone.
All right. And you added 2 lands, Steven. What are you cutting to add those lands?
Yep, so I did cut a lot of lands from the 100, so I took the land base down a good chunk, if I'm honest with you. Like I said, that's just the way I play. I would much rather leave cards in the deck and get rid of extra lands. Since we basically have so many ways to make treasure tokens or find lands with like land tax or smothering type, I did just keep it at 34 lands in the deck. The 2 that I got rid of for the 2 that I added were Fortified Village and Sungrass Prairie. Fortified Village is that weird one where you have to like reveal a forest or plains or it enters tapped, and I don't want to risk it. And then Sungrass Prairie is the pay 1, tap it, and then add a green and a white. I don't care for that.
Yeah. Reveal lands and filter lands. Not as strong as fetches and shocks. I would understand. All right, Steven. Is that everything? Is that your cuts and additions for your $300 list?
That is everything, Shane.
Cool, man. Well, you had a budget of $300. What will it cost to get all these additions?
Shane, I actually pretty much hit it right there. So the cool thing about this was the $100 upgrades actually went down in price. So actually the $100 list went down about $25. But I did keep it to just the 200, which is usually what I do. So the 100 plus the 200. So we're actually looking at about $275 total for everything. So this was pretty good.
Nice. Saving money. Yeah, when cards drop in price like that, that's always a plus. Before we wrap it up, Steven, do you have any final thoughts on the deck?
I mean, listen, it's a good deck. It's pretty fun. It's really tough to build a higher level precon when enchantments are so cheap. So really, you're just kind of like building your land base. I think, to be honest with you, if I were to do this and there wasn't like a price restriction, I would probably just spend all my money on lands, because always upgrading your land base is something super important. I highly recommend that anybody wanting to build precons or get into Magic a little bit more, spend your money on your land base, and that way you can always swap those out and you'll have a good time. I mean, otherwise, building a bunch of card draw engines and probably a combo here and there is always a fun way to build a deck for me. So I kind of enjoyed that for sure. I'll pretty much end it there. I guess my final thought would be, if you want to play more like with the roles, you can always use Gilwayn, the secondary commander. It's a little bit cheaper to get out too, which is really fun. It's kind of new for me and I didn't want to mess around with it too much. That's kind of why I kept the face commander Ellivere of the Wild Court. He just kind of did that card draw and put a virtuous roll on something, and that's what I really like the most.
This seems like a cool deck, Steven. Anyone out there, drop Steven a comment. Let him know what you think. Did he miss a addition? Did he miss a cut? Did you not agree with his cut? We love hearing feedback. We love getting better at that. In the description, you'll find a link to this Mox field. So if you wanted to check it out, maybe do a little bit of testing with it yourself, it'll be there. Also down in the description, you'll find links to all of our social medias. That is Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's all going to be just @guys@magic. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. Make sure you stick around because we will be doing the battle, not in this set since there are only 2, but in the next set. That will be Lost Caverns of Ixalan. When those precons come out, we'll be upgrading those and we'll be battling against these decks. So make sure you're subscribed and come back for that video. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
Later.